Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Port Moody Station Museum. My name is Robert Simons, and I'm honored to be your Master of Ceremonies this evening. Tonight's event will commemorate the McKnight Centennial Trench as we close the exhibit. We will also pay our respect to those who served and continue to serve in Canada's military. In meeting here this evening, I acknowledge our location on the unceded territories of the Coast Salish-speaking peoples with whom we are actively working to develop strong relationships. Tonight's program will include a short history on the McKnight Centennial Trench, followed by our candlelight vigil and remembrance ceremony. The remembrance ceremony will include last post, 2 minutes of silence, lament, roast, followed by the act of remembrance, commitment to remembrance, and a reading of In Flanders Fields. The museum team will guide you through the museum grounds as we work through the event. Before we start, though, I would like to acknowledge some specific dignitaries and special guests that are here this evening. First, I understand that newly elected Councillor Callan Morrison is with us this evening. Callan, welcome. I also want to welcome those members of the Trench that are here tonight, of which 2 or 3 I will make special reference to later this evening. And also all of you here tonight. Many of you probably have been involved with the Trench and have had active participation in its creation and its ongoing activity. Also here tonight are members of the board of the Port Moody Heritage Society. I want to acknowledge them as well. On June 29th, 2014, a small trench was dedicated at the Port Moody Station Museum, just over here, in the memory of Lieutenant Augustus McKnight. Lieutenant McKnight had been a resident of our city and one of the very first town engineers. When the First World War began, Augustus left his Port Moody home and enlisted in the 6th Field Company Canadian Engineers in North Vancouver. Lieutenant McKnight would eventually serve overseas on the Western Front. Lieutenant McKnight was one of 10 men from our city that lost their lives during the First World War. Later in 2014, a small group of volunteers was formed, committed to make a significant exhibit in Canada to commemorate the First World War centennial. The large exhibit was designed to be historically accurate and allow museum visitors to explore and understand a soldier's life in a trench. On Saturday, April 4th, 2015, the Port Moody Heritage Society hosted the dedication and unveiling ceremony of the McKnight Heritage Plaque, which is currently located in the Old City Hall of Port Moody. Following that, we came back here to this site for the ceremony here at the Port Moody Station Museum that opened the McKnight Centennial Trench. Over 6.5+ years, this exhibit, plus related events, has highlighted, honored, and educated hundreds of adults and children through the real-life replication, the challenges and honors of war, plus the triumphs in life experienced by Canadian and Allied soldiers during World War I. The educational experience and learning enabled by the trench went beyond the classroom in its ability to depict the lived experiences encountered by World War I veterans. The exhibit and associated programs could not have been possible without the initiative, support, and thousands of hours of volunteer labor to plan, build, and maintain the trench. Special notice is made here to the following. The Trench Squad. The Trench Squad consisted of 12 folks, many of them here tonight, and I just want to read their names. Mason Bertram, Cameron Black, Guy Black, Sean Black, Rianne Igeto, Marcus Farner, Alan Fox, John Goheen, Jim Hepper, Jim Miller, Andrew Parrish, Carrie Price, and Sonny Sun. And I'm really pleased that some of those members are here tonight to basically go through the closure of this particular exhibit. I also want to recognize the 6th Engineer Squadron, Royal Company Army Cadets, who have been here on numerous occasions to help with the trench. Specifically, a number of these cadets actually spent at least 2 occasions here at the museum as their barracks, as they worked on building and maintaining the trench. I also want to acknowledge one specific corporate sponsor, and that is the Favel Mill, who provided a lot of the material in both timber and some of the fill for the sandbags. I guess they would be sawdust bags that basically sat around the trench. One member of the trench squad who played an instrumental role and with the educational adjunct to the trench was John Goheen. John developed and delivered a number of educational talks on events and circumstances that took place during World War I. His, along with talks by members of the squad, gave our audiences descriptive narratives and facts on World War I that soldiers endured, how families at home supported them, and subtle aspects of World War I that were not well known or understood. Specifically, I remember 2 talks. One talk was about animals in war. If you had a chance to listen to that, it was very instrumental in understanding the way animals, large and small, were used in the conduct of war. And I believe Marcus was the speaker for that one. We also had some talks about certainly life at home and what type of support had to be given from families here in Canada to their loved ones that were serving overseas. Each year since 2015, with the exception of those impacted by the pandemic, a candlelight vigil has been held here at the museum to honor and remember Port Moody veterans who served and those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in World War I. This evening, we will hold our last candlelight vigil in the trench. It will also be our opportunity to pay tribute to the McKnight's Centennial Trench legacy as we will officially close the exhibit following the candlelight vigil. World War I and the wars and peacekeeping initiatives since 1914, where Canada has been engaged, are in themselves tragic human events. The dedication, hardship, and sacrifice in those events left many scars, but also showed the strength and resilience of Canada's military. The McKnight's Centennial Trench has provided a significant remembrance of the earliest mark of this strength and resilience. In preparation for our candlelight vigil, you will be walking across the field behind you and go onto the platform by the museum. There, you will be provided with a candle, which will be lit by one of the volunteers. The piper will start the procession, and hosts will lead you into the trench. Our remembrance ceremony will begin with last post. We will have 2 minutes of silence. We'll have lament. We'll have roast. The reading of the act of remembrance will follow, and then the commitment of remembrance will be followed by that. Finally, we will have the reading of In Flanders Fields. When you leave the trench, please place your candle on the fence as you depart the entrance. We invite you to come to the museum after the ceremony. Go into the museum, there'll be warm beverages, and tour the remembrance event and exhibit that is currently placed in the museum. With that, I invite you all to basically go to the platform across, and we will begin our preparations for the candlelight vigil. Thank you. It's the last time we'll be actually using the Trents for a candlelight vigil. And I know on previous events that we've had the opportunity to basically remiss all of the people that served in World War I. But I think tonight it's really important that we basically recognize not only those that served in World War I, but all of our Canadian men and women who have served over the decades in many different events, sacrifices around the world. Many have given their life in doing that. Many of them have been injured very seriously, returned home, had very challenging lives. Many returned home to find totally different Canada than what they had left. So tonight is the night to remember. And with that, let's start with last pledge.
They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years of them. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we shall remember them. We shall remember them.
They were young as we are young. They served freely of themselves, them with the winds of time. Carry their torch and never forget. We will remember them.
In Flanders fields, the poppies glow. Between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly, stars heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, for days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved, and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from falling hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your consideration coming out this evening. As you leave the trench, as I say, just take your candle and place it on the railing of the fence as you came in. Please come in. There's some warm refreshments inside. And come in and please take a look at the exhibit honoring our veterans. Thank you again for coming out.
This after. I didn't know that this was happening. It was many good years. Yeah.
Go on in. Still cool.